Hey Legacy community, it's Terramaster, and welcome to episode Thrace of What's in the BoGX. Today, we will focus on the man who, I think it's a man? Yeah, focuses on the ancient gear archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Generation Next. Game on, catch your game on. And that is Dr. Crowler himself. At least I believe it is Dr. Crowler himself, although who knows what Dr. Crowler's pronouns are, so I might stop using pronouns altogether. Okay, Ancient Gear Golem obviously is the staple, the boss monster, the whole shebang of Dr. Crowler. And it's his signature card. I'm doing it again. It's a signature card that Dr. Crowler has in the anime, and it does piercing damage as well as prevents spell trap activation in response to its attack until the end of the damage step. So that's there, although it does have the big restriction that it can't be special summoned, so that comes up later on. Then we have, and it's 2 tributes to normal summon, so that's something too. Then you've got Ancient Gear Beast, who can straight up be better than Conflict because it has the same effects of spell trap card can be activated in response to its attack, and also negates the effect of an opponent's monster that it destroys by battle. So it's like Hades plus part of Ancient Gear Golem, and that's actually really good. I think this card might actually be halfway decent with Inner Conflict. So watch out for Ancient Gear Beast if we do end up getting it, because I think Golem is almost a certainty. Beast is very, very likely in my opinion. Pretty likely also is Ancient Gear Wyvern, if for no other reason. Even if they just give us these two, it's just an option to search those two. And I do believe we're going to get a lot more search cards, like I've already talked about in the hero episodes, in this GX box, just because there's so many search cards that are kind of specific to these archetypes, like Wyvern is. So I think it's a really good card, and we're going to get it. And Wyvern also stops monster effect activations on attack. So it's one of those few things that can actually prevent Sphere Kuriboh from being activated when it attacks, which is actually really cool. And also the battle effects too, so all the floaters, all that good stuff can't be used when Wyvern kills something. Alright, then you've got Ancient Gear Frame. Now this is another searcher, so it basically has a cost to it, but then you add a Golem or any card that lists Golem from your deck to your hand. And has the same Ancient Gear. All Ancient Gears are going to have that can't respond to an attack with a spell or trap effect. Pretty much all of them. If they don't, I'll mention it, okay? And then it has a floaty effect where you can special summon golems or ultimate pounds from your hand, ignoring their summoning condition. So this is one of the few ways that if your opponent removes this by a card effect, you can actually cheat out the Ancient Gear Golem, which is kind of cool. I mean, you can do some things probably to like force your opponent to use a card effect on this thing, so it might actually come up. Then you have Ancient Gear Box, which is essentially another search card. This card will search your frame because it has 500 defense. It searches anything with exactly 500 attack or defense. In addition, it can also search Ancient Gear Knight, which is 1800, 500. I'll get into that in a second. So that's box, and I think that's all the searchers for the monsters. Then I have Ancient Gear Hunting Hound here. Now this card I didn't really know about, but as I was just looking through all the Ancient Gear monsters, and Lucas recommended this to be in here as well. So I think that this, actually I agree with him, and that we're probably going to get this card just because it has a cool effect where you fusion summon an Ancient Gear monster using materials from your hand or field, so you don't need a polymerization type of card if you have Hunting Hound. And once I get into the fusion, you'll see why that's so important. And since GX is the fusion anime, the fusion focused anime of Yu-Gi-Oh!, I think we're going to get the Ancient Gear fusion as well. Just to really, I think that summoning mechanic is really going to be pushed, just because fusion summoning as far as like the meta of speed duels goes so far has been basically non-existent. Then we've got Ancient Gear Knight, like I talked about. It's searchable by box because of 500 defense. It's a decent 4-star beater as well, 1800. It's a Gemini monster, which I don't know if I've mentioned these yet, but essentially you normal summon it once, and then if you normal summon it again, it gains an additional effect. So the additional effect obviously is the same generic Ancient Gear effect. Well, they can't respond to your attack with spell and traps. So that's something, like, it's okay, it's decent, it's mostly just good because it's searchable. And if anything, it's just got the highest, like, throw it down normal summon attack points of the archetype that I'm predicting we're going to get here. Then you've got Ancient Gear Castle, which is, I think, probably too slow for speed duels, but they could give it to us as a skill like they have in Duel Links, and that might actually make the card itself playable, like if it comes in the form of a skill card, where the 300 attack isn't really that important, but it's mostly that every time a monster normal summon, you place a counter on it, and then if it has 2 counters, for example, you contribute it instead of Golem. So I imagine a skill would have something like you just flip it face down and you can't activate it more than once per duel, right? So that way it allows you to cheat out one of your big Ancient Gear monsters, and that's probably not good enough for speed duel. I'll go ahead and say that right now just because of how broken some of the other skills are. I think we're going to need something in addition to this card's vanilla effect in order for this skill to be actually usable in meta play, competitive play. And then you've got the big card Gear Town. Now this, we already have magical hats, and this goes very, very well with magical hats. We have Double Cyclone, this goes pretty well with Double Cyclone. We have Breaker, this goes well with Breaker. We already have a lot of insane cards to go ahead and work with this card, and that's because if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Now, like I said, Golem can't be special summoned, but you still have plenty of decent options in this pool that I'm predicting here, which you have options like Beast, you have Wyvern, which will trigger the search immediately. You have Frame, which if it's your main phase, you can go ahead and use its search effect. You can also summon the Hunting Hound to set up a fusion play. A lot of decent options from Gear Town, even though you can't summon the Golem off of it. Then you have Ancient Gear Fortress, which is actually really cool because during the turn you summon an Ancient Gear monster, it protects them from being targeted or destroyed by card effects. Now, protection from both of those things actually makes your monsters like almost unable to be removed on your turn. So that's really, really good because you can avoid all kinds of back row stuff that would ordinarily remove your monster. And I think we're going to get quite a bit of back row monster removal in this set, which I'll get into when I do the stable episode. So that's actually really good. And then obviously when it's destroyed, you special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. So the graveyard part is very good for the long game, and then obviously you can just drop something from your hand if that's what the situation is. Again, same restriction, can't do Golem, but all those other options that were there with Gear Town are still there with Fortress. Alright, then you've got Ancient Gear Catapult. Now this is another card I didn't know about, and Lucas found it, and I read it, and I'm like, I agree. While you control no monsters, you target a face-up card you control, you pop your own card. So again, very good combo with Gear Town Fortress. And then, not only that, you get to special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So there's another way to cheat out Golem. And then you banish this card from your graveyard, and to destroy one face-up card you control, and you special summon an Ancient Gear Earth token. Not Ancient token, that's Earth. You can only use one effect per turn and only once that turn. So you can't spam it over and over again. But I think it's still a really good card. One, because it combos very well with your Gear Town and Fortress, so you don't have to run some generic stuff like Double Cyclone. And it also lets you cheat out Golem, which I think is actually very, very important if Golem is going to be the strongest Ancient Gear that we're going to get. Now we're going to go back a little bit to the fusion mechanics. So we already talked about Hunting Hound, but this is also very important. We've got Ancient Gear Fusion. Now, you summon an Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. So that's basically polymerization, correct? However, here's the cool part. If you have a Golem or an Ultimate Pound you control as fusion material, if you use one of those things that's on your field, you can use monsters from your deck as the other material. Now that's really good because if you manage to drop an Ancient Gear Golem, you can go ahead and activate the spell card, and you can go ahead and send the second piece of the puzzle from your deck to the graveyard. That's really, really fucking good. Alright. Ancient Gear Factory is you reveal an Ancient Gear monster from your hand that's level 5 or higher, and then you banish monsters from your graveyard whose levels are double the revealed monster, and then you normal summon it without tributing. Which is, I think this was another card that Lucas showed me, and I think this is okay. I don't necessarily expect this card to be played. It's probably too slow for speed duels, but I do agree it's probably going to be included in the box, and that's why it's in here. It's a prediction episode. It's a prediction series, so why not? Ancient Gear Tank, I think, is decent enough to be included. It does slight burn damage, and it also gives you a boost. It can also be searched by, I'm pretty sure it can be searched by the Wyvern. It can also be searched by the Wyvern. So, all that considered, I think we're going to tank, even though I don't see it being a particularly good card. You've also got Ancient Gear Drill, which is slightly better, because you can go ahead and use it to set your Gear Town or Fortress immediately from your deck, and then you can pop that. Even though it can be activated, you're setting it in order to go ahead and destroy it. So I can summon an Ancient Gear Wyvern, search the Drill, and activate the Drill immediately to search my Gear Town if I want to, right? So that's actually really good. As long as I have some way to destroy that Gear Town, boom, now I'm popping off. So that's actually really, this card could actually see competitive play, in my opinion. All right, now let's talk about the fusion. That's what you've all been waiting for. Everyone comes to GX for the fusions, right? This is Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. This card in Duel Links for a while was absolutely disgusting. Must be fusion summoned, so you can't cheat it out. It does piercing damage on a 4400 body. That's insane. And then obviously has the same Ancient Gear effect. And then if it's destroyed, you summon a golem from your graveyard, ignoring summoning conditions. So after all that, it floats into a 3k piercer as well. That's really, really good. So think of the value you potentially get, right? First, with Hunting Hound or Ancient Gear Fusion, you could probably summon this a lot easier than you normally would. And I'm also predicting that you're going to probably get some kind of a skill which makes it even easier to summon to fusion summon the Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. So I'll say at least that's the direction I want the skills in the GX box to go, which is really push the fusion mechanic really, really hard. That's what I'm hoping for, but I'm not making any predictions on skills because I learned the hard way the last time that if I try too hard to make the prediction on skills, I'm probably going to end up being wrong. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. I don't think I mentioned that earlier in the series, but anyway, so this card obviously requires 3 materials total to be used, which is why a card like Catapult and Ancient Gear Fusion are also very, very important to facilitate that kind of stuff. So, but I think you get a lot of value because it floats into the golem if your opponent manages to destroy it, which is really, really, really good. And then combined with the Fortress, it can't even be destroyed on the first turn. So you guaranteed get that 4400 pierce in. That is absolutely disgusting. All right, guys. And that leaves us with the unlikely cards. Now, first I'll start off with the gadget monsters. Okay, you've got yellow gadget, red gadget, green gadget. Now, the reason these are in here, now these search for each other essentially. Red searches for yellow, yellow searches for green, and green searches for red when they're normal or special, right? The reason these are in here, and unlikely at all, is because of Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon. Now, this was one of my favorite cards to play in the TCG when I discovered that Gear Town was a thing. I loved playing this card. Has the same Ancient Gear effect, and then if you use it, if you tribute gadgets in order to summon it, it gets an effect based on what gadget you tribute it. So if you do green, it does piercing. If you do red, it gets a small burn effect, and if you do yellow, it gets a small burn effect as well, a different type of burn effect. So that's why I believe this is unlikely as well, mostly because we're probably not getting the gadgets right now. And I think we'll get this card when we get the gadgets. But the reason I even put it on here and in this episode is because it's an extremely good target for Gear Town without being overly broken, and that you can summon it from your deck. It doesn't have that special summon restriction. And when you do that, it's kind of a vanilla 3k beater, which is not so great usually. But if you're special summoning from your deck off of a Gear Town, it's pretty freaking good, right? So that's why this is in here, and that's why I think there's a chance we get it, though I don't think it's likely. Then we've got Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, which again, I think it's very, very unlikely, but the reason this is in here is because it's Konami. They are insane. They gave this to us in Duel Links, and it was meta for a long time and still halfway decent for a long time after that. So if this monster is tribute someone using Ancient Gear monster, it does piercing damage, and then if it tributes a gadget monster, so again it goes with the gadgets, it makes a second attack during each battle phase. Anyway, it's got the same Ancient Gear effects, however it also includes monster effects. So it combines Golem's generic effect and Wyvern's monster effect, Stoppage, which it makes this card absolutely insane, which means once you declare that attack, there's nothing your opponent can do. And to make it worse, if this card attacked at the end of the damage step, you can destroy a spell or trap on the field. So you can sure clear your opponent's back row, whatever. Or you can really combo off into destroying your own gear town or fortress and go ahead and just drop another one. So it's really, really good for OTKs if that's what you're going with. But I really doubt we're going to get this in Speed Duels, because I really hope and pray that the new people in charge of Speed Duels really understand that this card is probably too powerful and would probably break the meta. Let me know what you think about these Ancient Gear predictions. I will see you in the next episode for... I'm going to go ahead and do Jesse Anderson and the Crystal Beast next. Until then, Terra Master out.